Nobody was supposed to find it. That was the first thing Dr. Mara Voss said when she saw the readings. Sitting alone in the Deep Space Observation Station, Helix -9, 300 million miles from anyone who might have believed her, staring at a data stream that shouldn't have existed. A doorway in the middle of empty space, perfectly circular, perfectly stable, and absolutely, impossibly old, older than the solar system it sat beside, older than the stars she used to chart, older, her instruments suggested in language she had to read 3 times before accepting, than the universe itself. Mara had spent 14 years studying spatial anomalies for the Interstellar Research Division. She had catalogued wormholes, measured gravitational echoes, mapped the death patterns of collapsed stars. She was not a person who panicked at strange readings. Her hands were shaking anyway. She reached for the comm panel. Helix -9 to IRD Command. Priority 1 transmission. I need someone to verify what I am looking at, because either my instruments have catastrophically failed, or I have just found something that rewrites everything we thought we knew about the age of the cosmos. Static, then a tired voice. Copy Helix -9. Send the data package. She sent it. Then she sat very still, watching the anomaly on her view screen. A ring of impossible light, roughly 3 kilometers in diameter, shimmering faintly at the edge of scanner range, as if it were breathing. 16 minutes later, Command called back. The voice wasn't tired anymore. Mara, don't touch it. Don't go near it. We're sending a team. She looked at the gateway. The gateway seemed, in some way she couldn't explain scientifically, to look back. Understood, she said, and meant it, mostly. The team arrived in 9 days, fast, by deep space standards, which told her how seriously Command had taken the readings. 3 ships, 40 personnel, enough equipment to run a full-scale spatial investigation, and one man Mara hadn't expected. Director Cael Orin, head of the IRD's Classified Operations Division, a branch most researchers only heard about in corridor whispers. He was tall, older than his file photos suggested, and he watched the gateway on the main screen for a long time without saying anything before he finally turned to her. "You haven't gone near it," he said. It wasn't quite a question. "You told me not to," Mara said. "You are also the most qualified spatial physicist in the IRD," he said. "And you've been alone with the most significant discovery in human history for 9 days. I half expected to arrive and find you'd already gone through it." "I thought about it," she admitted. "But I am a scientist. I observe first." Cael nodded slowly, something unreadable moving behind his eyes. "Good, because there is something about this anomaly I need to show you. Something we've kept classified for 15 years. Something that will explain why I ran rather than walked to get here." In the briefing room of Cael's ship, he pulled up a file with a classification level Mara had never seen before. 4 layers deep, requiring both their biometric signatures to unlock. What it contained made her forget how to breathe for approximately 30 seconds. 15 years ago, a deep space probe on a routine survey mission had captured a single fragmented image before its systems catastrophically failed. The image was degraded, partial shot through with interference, but unmistakable. A gateway, the same gateway in the same location, sending something through. The probe didn't fail, Cael said quietly. It was hit by debris coming from the other side. Whatever went through that gateway 15 years ago, it came back. Or at least, parts of it did. "What went through?" Mara asked. Though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. Cael pulled up another file. A mission record redacted almost beyond reading. But the core data still visible. A survey craft, a crew of 7, a mission designation in the classified range, and a launch date 15 years ago. "We sent a crew through before we understood what it was," Cael said. "We thought it was a standard wormhole. We lost contact immediately upon entry." He paused. The debris the probe photographed We matched 3 pieces to the survey craft's hull registry. The room was very quiet. They came back in pieces, Mara said. Some of them did. Another pause, heavier than the first. Not all of the debris we recovered was from the ship. Mara didn't sleep that night. She sat at her instruments instead, running every scan she could devise on the gateway's outer edge, building a picture of it piece by careful piece. What she found didn't make her less afraid. It made her afraid in a different, more specific way, the kind of fear that comes with understanding. The gateway wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was constructed by something, at some point in time predating every model of cosmic history humanity had ever built. Its materials didn't match any element on the periodic table. Its energy signature cycled on a pattern that, when she ran it through her frequency analysis software, came out with a result that made her laugh out loud. Alone in the lab at 3 in the morning because it was either that or cry. It was a pulse, regular, rhythmic patient. The gateway was waiting. She brought her findings to Cael at dawn. He listened without interrupting, which she was grateful for. And when she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "What is on the other side?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "But whatever built this, it didn't build it to stay closed. It built it to be used. And whatever's on the other side," she hesitated, "I think it has been waiting for us to figure out how to come through safely." "Or waiting for us to come through at all," Cael said. "So it can finish what it started 15 years ago." They looked at each other across the table, and between them lay the weight of every question humanity had ever asked about what else existed in the dark between stars, about whether they were alone, about what it meant to stand at the edge of the unknown and choose whether or not to step forward. It took 3 weeks to understand the entry protocol. Mara barely left her lab. She ate when someone brought her food, slept in 4-hour intervals when her body stopped cooperating, and spent every waking hour translating the gateway's pulse pattern into something she could work with. The rest of the team ran parallel analyses, material science, quantum spatial mapping, historical cross, referencing against every xenolinguistic database humanity had assembled. They found fragments, traces. The beings who had built the gateway had left records of a kind. Not language exactly, but encoded into the gateway's structure itself, in the ratio of its dimensions and the mathematics of its energy cycle. Mara decoded them the way you decode a piece of music, not word by word, but as a whole, feeling the shape of it before the details resolved. What she found stunned the entire team into silence. The gateway didn't lead to another point in space. It led to another universe entirely, a parallel cosmos, older than their own, governed by slightly different physical laws, inhabited by civilizations that had been thriving and dying, and rebuilding for billions of years before their universe had coalesced from its first atoms. The beings who built the gateway hadn't been visiting. They'd been evacuating. Their universe was dying, slowly, by cosmological standards, still millions of years from total heat death, but dying nonetheless. And they had been sending gateways forward, seeding younger universes with bridges, the way a tree seeds a forest, leaving doors for whoever came after to find. Not an invasion, not a trap, a gift. But the entry protocol mattered. The gateway's pulse pattern wasn't just a heartbeat. It was a key, a timing sequence. And if you entered at the wrong phase of the cycle, the spatial membrane between universes tore rather than parted. And what came through the tear was not a person but debris. That was what had happened 15 years ago. "We went in blind," Cael said when she explained it. His voice was very controlled, but she could see what it cost him. "Yes," she said gently, "but we know better now." The decision to send a probe through first was unanimous, and the probe came back intact, transmitting footage that the entire team gathered around a single screen to watch in a silence that felt like prayer. The other side was real. It was vast, It was breathtaking in ways that made several experienced scientists quietly wipe their eyes, because no amount of professional detachment could prepare a human being for the sight of a cosmos billions of years older than their own galaxies. So ancient and dense they looked like glowing clouds, structures on scales that dwarfed anything in their own universe. And at the nearest point through the gateway, something that was unmistakably constructed. An arrival platform built from that same impossible material as the gateway itself, clearly designed for exactly this purpose. Alchemat, left by a civilization that might have died 1 billion years ago and might still, somehow, be waiting. Mara turned to Cael. "I want to go through," she said. He didn't say no. She'd known he wouldn't. He was, she'd realized over the past weeks, a man haunted by a mission he'd sent into the dark 15 years ago without enough knowledge. A man who needed this to be something other than what it had looked like. "We go together," he said. "Full team, and we come back." "We come back," she agreed. "And then we tell everyone." Entry was scheduled for 06:00, and Mara was at the gateway's edge 30 minutes early, suited and helmeted, watching the pulse, pattern cycle on her wrist display and feeling something she hadn't expected. Calm, a deep bone, level calm, as if she'd been moving toward this specific moment since she was a child, lying on her back in a field, looking up at the stars and wondering what was out there. Everything, she thought. Everything was out there. The cycle reached its peak phase. The gateway's ring of light intensified, shifting from pale shimmer to a deep, resonant gold, and the spatial membrane between universes parted like a curtain in a doorway, smooth and clean and welcoming, exactly the way it was designed to. Mara Voss stepped through first. What she found on the other side would take years to fully understand, decades to document, and generations to explore. An ancient cosmos, yes, older and vaster than imagination, but not empty, not abandoned. The civilization that built the gateways hadn't all died. A remnant had remained, tending the bridges between universes with a patience that made humanity's entire recorded history look like an afternoon. They were not human. They were not anything Mara had a word for. But when the first of them approached the arrival platform, moving in a way that suggested both great age and great care, and placed something on the platform's surface, a gift, clearly, laid out for whoever came through, Mara knelt and picked it up. It was a map of gateways. Hundreds of them, thousands, seeded across dozens of universes, left by a civilization that had spent its last great age building bridges instead of walls, reaching forward, instead of hoarding what remained. A map of everything that had been lost, everything that was waiting to be found again. She looked up at the being across the platform, across every measure of time and difference and impossible distance that separated their origins. And she did the only thing that felt right. She smiled. And impossibly, unmistakably, across the gulf of 1 billion years and 2 separate universes, it smiled back.